Hi, I'm Adam Summer. You're listening to the Yerushalmi Talk podcast with the support of the Yeshivat Devar Yerushalayim in Har Nof, Jerusalem. As we've been seeing in Demai chapter 5, there's a problem when you try to separate out Tevel on behalf of Demai. So again, you have one pile of Tevel and you have another pile of Demai. They are not alike. And the problem is that you're going to try to separate the pile A, which is Tevel, not only for itself, but also for pile B. Now, if you have two piles of something, you have a pile of Tevel in pile A and a pile of Tevel in pile B, you can take the ties of pile A, not only for pile A, but also you can add and do the ties also on pile B, even though you're not physically taking out the produce from pile B. Why? Because they are the same. They are the same. The grain over here is the same as the grain over there in pile B. Not the case when you're having pile A be Tevel and pile B be Demai. Now, let's get into the mathematics of this from the shiurim, from Rabbi Kanievsky, from the transcribed notes, so that you can see in detail the problems about when you're going to do two different ties. Now, again, the problem is when you're dealing where you're going to end up, where your tithe ends up looking like it's fixed and it has Tevel in it. And that's going to come in the Meiser Rishon tithe. Now, we saw that the Truma, that's going to be by estimate. It's not going to be a precise measure, but that's, by the way, going to be an estimate of 2% of the crop. But the other ties, there are a total of 5 ties, the fifth one being Challah. The other ties are going to be precise. In the normal case, you have 100 sa'ah of produce, and you're going to separate out 10 as Meiser Rishon. And in that case, you're going to have this remaining 90 being permitted as Hulin, and then the separated 10 as Meiser Rishon. Now, that is going to be normal, but as we're going to see when you start to get into separating Tevel for Demai and trying to do where you're going to do an extra amount of, ties for, the Truma Gedola to try to fix it, you're going to end up with a mess. So the commentary is going to be like this. If you have 100 sa'ah produce, and now you're going to be separating out 9 sa'ah of Meiser Rishon, you're supposed to be doing 10, but instead you did 9. Oh, and when you try to rectify those 9, only 90 sa'ah is going to be Hulin, and 9 sa'ah is going to be Meiser Rishon. And then you're going to end up with 10 sa'ah is going to be Tevel. So when you have 9 sa'ah that you're separating out as Meiser, that's going to be permitted as Meiser Rishon, but the remaining 91 sa'ah in the mixture is Tevel. And then the problem is that you have a mixture where there's 10 Tevel and 81 Hulin, and you can't eat it. The produce has been ruined. And that's really the problem when you start to try to tithe Tevel for Demai. And in the case that we were just seeing, the Demai would be a case where you had Hulin itself within it. There's another case where you're going to go the other way, where you're going to try to over tithe to try to fix the problem, and you end up with the same mess. It's just going to be in a different pile. In other words, you're going to end up with a mixture, and you're thinking, oh, good, I'm going to give this, Truma and the ties and the Truma Meiser, and I'm going to give it over to the Kohen. But the problem is that in this other case, that you're going to be separating out something that has in it Tevel. You're giving the Kohen a pile of Tevel, and that is going to be a mixture where part of it is going to be the correct tithe with Tevel mixed into it, and it's death from heaven. It's a problem. So in the other case that Rabbi Kanievsky points out, and why, again, you have to be precise on this, because otherwise you end up with piles, as you can see with the mathematics, that end up with mixtures of Tevel in it, and it is not truma or trumas meiser. So in the next case, you have, 100 sa'ah produce, and you're going to try to over-separate. You're going to separate out 11 as meiser. So then on the other pile, you take out your 11 as meiser, and you have 89 sa'ah that has been turned into hulin. Now, of this 11 that you're separating, only 9 and 8/9 are meiser rishon. Why? Because meiser is always 1/9 of the rectified hulin. For example, if you have 100 sa'ah and you take 10 off the meiser as you're supposed to do, 10, that is going to be 1/9. That is going to be where there's 90 that's going to be rectified. So if you only have 89 that's rectified because you over-tithed it, then the meiser cannot be more than 1/9 or 9 and 8/9. So in other words, take 89, that's what you've rectified, and it's 1/9 of that. So the other 1 and 1/9 are neither meiser, since there's no tevel for them to rectify, nor hulin, since nothing was done to rectify it. So the 11 seah of meiser are actually going to be a mixture of meiser and tevel. It cannot be eaten, and that's what we saw in chapter 5, Halacha 2, where it says the produce is ruined. And the only way to fix this is you have to go to the tevel seller, and you have to buy some tevel, and you have to have a haver do it for you to fix it. In other words, the only way to fix this ruined pile is to go create a third pile of tevel to fix this mess, because now you have something that has trumas meiser in it and also tevel in it, and you can't eat it. And that is ultimately the problem with trying to tithe a pile of tevel on behalf of Demai, because that Demai might actually be hulin. And so then when you're either over-tithing it or under-tithing it, they're ending up either case with a mixture of hulin in it and tevel in it, and both. And so you actually did not fix your problem. And that is why it's forbidden. Big, big problem, so don't do it. Have a great day.